All right, now we're doing class 3, which is external values. So the first two things we're talking about, flow, meaning highly inspirational content. It should be really inspirational to you to know what you're passionate about, that's what your flow is, and to know what really gives you a deep sense of purpose and meaning, what fulfills you. Those are those really important things for you to get back in touch with that bring you to this next level. When it will move you to the higher levels that we're talking about, where you're moving to higher levels of happiness, higher levels of inner peace, higher levels of self-esteem. And so what I'd like you to do now is to look a little bit at the opposite of that. And these are external values. One of the biggest problems people have with figuring out what makes them flow and what gives them a sense of meaning is there's too much noise in their head. There are too many different values that they've been told should be important to them, that they've listened to. Maybe you've picked it up in education throughout your life. Maybe you've picked it up from home. Maybe you've picked it up from society. We pick up all these different values of things that are supposed to be important to us, and so we listen to them. We absorb them like sponges. And what happens is the things that really subjectively make us flow, give us a sense of meaning, get buried. And we start caring about things that really sap our energy. I call them happiness vampires. They just sap the happiness from us when we give our energy towards those things. And so a big part of this process is taking subconscious information, making it conscious. So we want to tap in a little bit into the subconscious values that you have that are external. These are not things that make you flow. They're not things that make you happy. They're not things that make you feel fulfilled. They do the opposite for you. They're either wasting your time or, worse, they're driving you in the opposite direction. When you give energy towards those, you remember the 21-point scale from -10 all the way to +10. When you give your energy towards those things, it brings you to the lower. It brings you lower. If you were at an 8, now you're at a 6. If you were at a 0, now you're at a -1 or -2. Because you're giving energy towards things that are not inherently important to you. They're external values. They drive you away from what really matters to you. So what I'd like to do is to have you access what are those happiness vampires for you. What are those external values that at the very least they waste your time, but at the worst they actually bring you down. They take you in the opposite direction. And you find yourself caring about these things, but they really don't do anything positive for you. Those are external values. And we think about self-esteem for people. A lot of low self-esteem we see in people has a lot to do with external values. They're looking at themselves relative to these values that have been put on them from the outside, and they're measuring themselves up against those values. And what happens when we do that? We come up short. Why are we coming up short? Because we didn't put a whole lot of energy. Why don't we put a whole lot of energy into it? Because we don't care about them. There's a part of us that cares about it, the part of us that wants to please everybody all the time. But we know from research that that's one of the main things we need to get rid of if we want to achieve self-actualization, happiness, is not caring about what other people think about us. Does that mean we become people that go around being antisocial and so on and so forth? No. Actually, those people are our heroes. The people that are doing what they believe is right because it's what they believe is right, regardless of public opinion, are our heroes. And that's what we're doing here. We're making you your own personal hero. Figure out what your values are and live a life that's consistent with it. Before we can start moving into that, be aware of what the problem is. The problem is these external values. Get to know these external values intimately so that when they come up in your mind and they start bothering you, right? Because first comes the thought, and now I start actually acting on it. Now I'm developing a life around external values that don't matter to me. And now I don't know why, but I'm so unhappy. I feel terrible. I'm so anxious. Well, you're giving your energy to things that you don't care about. Those are your external values. And so before we can start moving into flow and meaning without having these bother us, these external values, we first have to know what are they. So that when they come up in your life, you can say as quickly as possible, I know what that is. I know what that urge to do such and such is. It's external. It's not me. Okay? I've worked with a lot of people over the years, and a lot of times I hear very similar external values coming up over and over. For women, it's physical appearance. Over and over. Where do they get that from? From society. Society tells women you are as valuable as you look, relative to the people on the cover of certain magazines. So women will hold those up, measure themselves, come up short, and feel terrible. How motivated are they to look like that? They're kind of motivated, right? They kind of want, but the reality is, A, it's not in their control most of the time, a lot of these external values, but B, it has nothing to do with what makes you flow and gives you a sense of purpose and meaning. It has nothing to do with the things that actually make us happy. And men, right? Work with men has a lot to do with their career. If they're not progressing in their career, they feel that they're less than human. Where are they getting that from? From society also, right? And now things are getting all mishmashed. Men are getting really concerned about their appearance. Women are getting really concerned about their careers. Now we're sharing external values. Now everybody's doubly miserable. These have nothing to do with the things that make you flow, nothing to do with the things that give you a sense of purpose and meaning. They're in no way connected to your happiness. And so being aware of what it is in your life, it may be something really common, maybe something unusual. All that matters is you give your energy to A and B and C, and none of these things give me what I want. None of these things are connected to my happiness. And so let's be aware of what they are before we start moving forward and building a whole life. And the next thing we're going to be doing is developing a mission statement, which is a combination of your flow and meaning. And one of the things I've noticed with people that haven't done step 1 and step 2, have not focused on the first 2 principles of flow and meaning, and they haven't figured out what their external values are, they write weak mission statements, because they're full of external values. Those external values have kind of seeped into that mission statement because they weren't aware of them. So it's really important for you to figure out what those are, so that when we write a mission statement, when we develop goals for your life, they are completely clear of external values. Those should not be things that you are consciously acting towards, or things that you should be working on the subconscious level to start moving beyond and start disconnecting yourself from. So the first step is to figure out what they are. Okay, so the question here is, what do I do if this is really hard for me to figure out what are those external values? And so one of the other things for me to recommend for you is to use your list of values, or to Google list of values and different kinds of values. There's so many out there. And see if any of those match the things that you feel really keyed into that are happiness vampires, that are drawing that energy and life out of you. One of the ones that I find time and again comes up for people is, what do other people think about me? And so that external value is external judgments or other people's judgments, so on and so forth. The gentleman that I was working with, the poker player, if we go back to his story, you remember his flow came from using his analytical thinking. His meaning came from connection with people and helping other people. And his external value was, what do other people think about me? He was really anxious that other people would judge him negatively. So for people who are doing this program to overcome anxiety, external values are actually a really important thing to clarify. What are those criteria that I'm concerned that I'm going to fall short on with other people, so that I'm really anxious about? So for this poker player, he was really worried that other people would give him some kind of negative evaluation. People would think he was stupid, was one of the things he's really worried about. And so here he is playing poker, wanting to connect, but sometimes when he starts thinking, well, I'm worried about other people thinking I made a bad move or I was stupid, he may actually leave the game before he really wanted to, or maybe not even join the game at all because he's too concerned about what other people thought about him. So this work of identifying what it is that's really bothering us, what are those criteria that are external to us, and kind of being really clear, put it down on paper and say, what is driving me right now? And we're going to do more work on this as we move on with this program. But for now, the main thing is just for you to identify what are those values that are external for you. And remember, there's no such thing as something that is inherently external. It matters that it's external to you. Just like there's nothing that's inherently meaningful or flow for all people. What matters is that it subjectively feels that way for you. So it matters that externally this is external for you. So some people will say, well, money is inherently an external value. And to me, it's not necessarily an external value. Some people, it's really important for them to make money. It's something they're really good at, and they're going to do really good things with that. It's really connecting with their mission statement to be able to have resources that they can use for positive things. And for other people, it's really external. On the opposite end is something like service. We would say, oh, well, that's wonderful. That's a core value. That's really, that's really internal. That's really meaningful, objectively. Well, but this person, what they're really doing is they just want a pat on the back. One person may be really engaging other people and doing things for other people, and it's just making them more and more exhausted. The whole reason they're doing it is because they want other people to say, oh, he's a nice guy, and it has a lot to do with externals for them. And so it's not inherently fulfilling. So what's important here is that you really clarify what is inherently fulfilling and enjoyable to you and what is inherently not. And so we're going to work really hard as we go through this process to help you separate those external voices that tell you you should want A, B, and C, you shouldn't want A, B, and C, and make this voice that comes from inside of you, this internal voice that says, I really enjoy doing this. This is really meaningful to me, and I really don't enjoy that, and it's really not meaningful to me. Make that voice louder. That's your voice. And as you get more and more in touch with that, we're going to see that your scores start moving higher and higher towards the happy and highly successful range because you're really listening to yourself